We're going to give it 4 more minutes while we wait for Mayor Source, and then we'll start at 3:35. Supervisor Mashburn is on Zoom, so we'll give Mayor Source right now. She is attending. What great timing. Thank you. Good afternoon. I would like to call the Soltrans Board meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting will be conducted in compliance with AB 2449 to allow Board Member Mashburn to attend remotely due to a medical emergency. In compliance with the law, in the unlikely event that there are any technological issues at Vallejo City Hall that impede remote attendance for the general public, the meeting must be immediately shut down and no further business may continue. We will also take roll call attendance and roll call votes during the meeting per AB 2449. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and confirm a quorum?
Thank you, Chair. Members of the board, when I call your name, please respond and kindly turn your microphone on for the purposes of those joining on Zoom and the recording. Thank you. Director Hernandez.
Here.
Director Young. Director Gordon.
Present.
Chair Scott.
Here.
Vice Chair Source. Here. And Director Mashburn.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any statements of conflict from any board members? No? Supervisor?
No conflict, sir.
Thank you. I understand staff wishes to amend the agenda.
Yes, Chair Scott. Staff wishes to postpone the system performance report to the next month's meeting in February.
Thank you. Unless there are any other additions, deletions, or objections, I will move the approval of the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Please call the roll.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Young. Director Gordon.
Aye.
Chair Scott.
Aye.
Vice Chair Source.
Aye.
And Director Mashburn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
We're on number 4. We are now on the opportunity for public comment. This is the opportunity for public comment on any matter not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Soltrans Board. Soltrans' board welcomes public comment on matters within our jurisdiction and authority, but strongly denounces hate speech, obscenity, and disruptive behavior in meetings. Disruptive individuals will be admonished and removed from the meeting pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.95. We ask for members of the public to ensure their remarks are within the jurisdiction of this board and to refrain from making hateful or obscene comments. Manny, would you please start our sign-up clock for public comment? Madam Clerk, will you please read the following public comment notice?
Thank you, Chair Scott. Members of the public wishing to speak may sign up at the kiosk in the back of the council chamber. Public attending by Zoom may click the raise hand icon, and those dialing in by phone may press star 9. At the conclusion of our 2-minute sign-up period, in-person speakers will be called up first, followed by those on Zoom and phone. And while this is the opportunity for public comment on matters that are not on the agenda but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board, there will also be opportunity for comment on any item on the agenda at the time that those are heard.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Manny, do we have any persons wishing to speak under general public comment?
Thank you, Chair. Currently, we do not have any members of the public signed up either online or in person for this item on the agenda.
Okay. We will move on to item number 5, the Executive Director's Report. It's up to you, Beth.
Thank you, Chair. The only announcement I have today is I wanted to introduce our newest staff member. We have Declan Knowles, who joined the General Services Division. So welcome, Declan. We're happy to have you.
That was short. Thank you. We will move on to Board of Directors comments. Does any board member have any comments they'd like to add? Mayor Hernandez?
I do. The only thing I would like to encourage us to do is to provide, as each month comes and things that are happening with Solano Express, or like things that are milestones, things to celebrate, things staff-related, feedback, that may not be a metric, a qualitative metric that comes at a quarterly basis, that we help share that information to STA. I advocated to have a standing item on the agenda for Soltrans to make sure that we are bridging the gap for those who have Solano Express go through their community but that are not here. And I think like there's an opportunity here that we have to make sure that we do take advantage of those opportunities to be in front of that board, to share out things that may not be the quarterly report, but that are things that are what's going, the feedback. There's some really great things happening with Solano Express. I see the newsletter. I see things in the news, things that are being promoted on KUIC, like things like that. Those are really great things to highlight to members who are not as familiar. So I just want to encourage us to make sure that we have something or provide some ideas to Beth that can be reported back out to STA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hernandez. That's an excellent point. The more we communicate about what we do and how we do it to a broader audience, the better engagement we will get, and the better participation and awareness STA will have of what we do. So thank you for that. We'll now open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on this, Manny?
No speakers at this time.
Okay. We're moving on to proclamations and presentations. We'll start with item 6A, the MTC, Metropolitan Transportation Commission Regional Mapping and Wayfinding Project.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Over the past year, we've discussed the COA and the guiding goals of the system-wide redesign, including fiscal responsibility, thoughtful use of resources, and alignment with MTC's Blue Ribbon Task Force recommendations, as well as broader regional initiatives. One of those key initiatives is the Regional Mapping and Wayfinding Project. This is a Bay Area-wide effort to standardize how transit agencies display maps, signage, wayfinding information to riders so that the rider experience in San Francisco, for example, is the same rider experience in Vallejo, Benicia, Vacaville. Soltrans has a unique opportunity to adopt these soon-to-be-released standards and implement them system-wide as part of our system-wide redesign. We would serve as a pilot agency along a small group of other operators, helping to refine the standards and providing real-world feedback from riders, operators, maintenance staff, which would then be shared back with MTC. To discuss the project in more detail, I'd like to introduce you to Gordon Hansen, the project manager. Thanks, Gordon.
Great, thank you very much. Hello, members of the board, and good afternoon. Nice to see you in person. This is great. I love it. Thank you for the introduction. I think I have the ability to, yes, I do, look at that. So today we're just going to talk a little bit about the project from a high level and then dive into some of the detail that Manny got into. So we want to start with what's the state of the practice right now? Well, the first thing to start with is that signs and maps, this is our working definition for wayfinding. These are the public face of transit. They show where services go and they show where services stop, and they help us navigate our journey. Over time, we get more confident in knowing how to ride, and hopefully, we ride more. The Bay Area has over 24 public transit agencies, and most have their own sign and map styles, and Soltrans is no different. So when we travel across agency boundaries, though, it becomes a bit of an issue. It means effectively having to learn more than one way to ride transit in the Bay Area, potentially over 24 different ways. And that is a significant barrier to our regional efforts to get more people riding transit in general. This is actually a widely held concern. So in 2021, a poll associated with the Transit Transformation Action Plan showed that 92% of respondents said that easy-to-use and uniform maps and signs are important to them, and that's amongst their highest-rated priorities. So what do we do? Well, this is where the Regional Mapping and Wayfinding Project comes in to help. Specifically, we want to help more people ride transit more often. How do we do that? The first is a unified, harmonized system of signs and maps across all Bay Area agencies. This includes signs for people arriving to a facility by car, bike, or foot, signs at rail stations, ferry terminals, and bus stops, as well as maps at multiple scales that are designed in a way that's consistent with the maps, consistent with the signs. Standard symbols and colors help riders find transit in busy environments and navigate their journey more easily. Signs also provide the right amount of information for each decision point, reducing overwhelm and increasing confidence. We're also testing tactile information for accessibility. Ultimately, our view is that riders should learn just one way to ride Bay Area transit, no matter where they go. So what does this look like in practice? Well, we have a couple of examples because we've been able to outfit some prototype signs at El Cerrito del Norte, a little bit at Powell Street in downtown San Francisco, and Santa Rosa Transit Mall and Smart Station. Well, what it looks like in practice is that customers can rely on easy-to-use and uniform maps and signs from end to end, starting with their nearest bus stop or by driving, biking, or walking to a train station, making a transfer to another bus, or finding the right train platform. There's a consistent design language that we call the regional network identity, and that is the colors that you see here. Yellow, light blue, and dark blue colors, plus standard modal icons for bus, train, and ferry. Notably, agency logos, they're still there, but the modal icons and the service information take priority. As Mandy mentioned, our primary deliverable across all of the various aspects of this project is a set of regional wayfinding standards. Standards meaning technical specifications as well as guidance. And this is for agencies to manage their own signage installation and maintenance going forward. Now, we have an opportunity as part of this project to do a few initial projects that help get the ball rolling, and that's what we can talk about in a second. But we're doing that essentially and putting together these standards iteratively like chapters of a book. Now, as I mentioned, we had 3 sites that we've already developed and installed. Those are the prototypes. They helped us evaluate large and initial design choices using a great deal of agency and public feedback. Our first deliverable is coming soon, and that's directly to what Mandy has talked about here, and that is a set of guidelines for a unified bus stop design across the region. That's going to be released next month to support agencies who have immediate projects for their signs, like Soltrans. And we're also actively planning our pilot projects, which I'll talk about just now. So as I mentioned, we had an opportunity to install a number of initial signs at 3 prototype locations, and we had a very wide-ranging public evaluation effort for that. And that engagement included on-site surveys, outreach to Chinese and Spanish-speaking communities, as well as riders with disabilities, and a region-wide online survey. The results from that were extremely positive. With nearly 90% of riders saying that navigation with the new signs and maps was either easy or very easy. That was up to a 32 percentage point improvement from the previous signs and maps. So, very positive response. Next up in our project are the pilot projects. These allow us to test our new designs in wider and more complex locations around the region to ensure that the new signs are ready for all transit environments when we get to the end of our project. These pilot projects include 9 regional hubs across 8 counties. That includes the Vallejo Transit Center and the ferry terminal, as well as the Sassoon Fairfield Station, both served by Soltrans. We're also looking at select end-to-end bus routes in both Sonoma and Solano counties. And we are also going to continue to test accessibility elements like tactile signs during the pilots. We're working extensively and collaboratively with agencies to develop these new designs. Without agencies on board from the get-go and through each major design iteration, I'd say we'd be sunk. This is a project that is collaborative between the MTC at the region and every single agency that provides transit service. Our engagement includes a technical advisory committee comprised of a selection of large and small agency staff to help us guide strategic decisions. We've had numerous in-person meetings and site visits as well. Online group meetings and individual agency coordination where warranted. So, for example, with our friends Mandy and the crew here. And 3 design development workshops specifically to discuss the regional bus stops and sign design throughout last year. As mentioned, we are working right now to support agencies who have funding to complete sign projects immediately. We want to step back and get out of the way so that these can proceed as planned. So we're working with WestCat, we're working with County Connection, and of course Soltrans for the upcoming COA, as well as being open to serendipitous opportunities. For example, the Castro Elevator Project in downtown San Francisco. SFMTA invited us into that project last year, in part because of our collaborative work with them, and we were able to install some pretty nice looking signs, in my opinion, at a price that was actually less than the signs that were originally planned. So a lot of wins. So next time you're in the city, please check out our new signs at Castro Station. From my perspective, hearing what Mandy said, we completely agree. We have an excellent working relationship with Soltrans. They have been partners from the get-go on the new sign designs, valuation, and everything in between. And as part of the upcoming COA and the sign replacement project, we are really, really excited that we have an opportunity to partner on bringing the new regional sign design across the entire Soltrans service area. That's going to be a big help for us in refining the designs for the rollout across the region, but also a great opportunity to improve the experience of folks taking transit here within your service area with our new designs that we will like to share with you as soon as we can, starting next month. So with that, really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you all and share some information about the project today.
Thank you. Great presentation, and I recognize the need to have strategic design that is across all of our categories of communicating with our public. With that, though, I have a question about, I've seen some of the piloting over here at the Transit Center, and I am wondering about visually impaired. What have you done in order to reach out to that market?
Yeah,
Those
thank
folks.
you. Well, our view, I think, from the get-go is that any successful wayfinding project needs to employ universal design, right? Anything that we're doing that is going to help folks who are blind or low vision or a variety of other disabilities, mobility or cognitive disabilities, any improvements we make there is going to help everybody. So there's a couple of things that we've done. The first thing is we have set up an accessibility working group, and board member Gordon is an excellent and collaborative member of that group. So very happy to see you in person. And so we have an opportunity to check in with members from a diverse selection across the region, and also folks who have different disabilities to help us understand their lived experience with navigating transit. And that is something that we have scheduled every month, and an opportunity to check in with new designs and gather feedback. There's a couple of things that we've tested to date and things that we're looking forward to do. The first thing that we've tested to date is, I'll say, even beyond specific treatments, The approach to signs in general is meant to make them as easy to understand as possible. So bright colors, the use of symbols as much as possible, reduce the need for language translation. When there is an opportunity for language translation, we do so on our printed materials, right? So that helps expand between not just folks of different abilities, but also folks who are maybe low English proficiency. At El Cerrito del Norte and Santa Rosa, we tested Braille and tactile panels at individual bus stops. I think that's a really good start. We need to continue to study those because there's a difference between implementation at a regional hub or a transfer center where there is the ability for an agency or an owner to be able to, or a transit agency who owns the site, to be able to operate and maintain those signs versus someone like, say, AC Transit. AC Transit operates across a multitude of jurisdictions. They do not own the poles necessarily that they're operating on. So we need to be very careful as to what we're expecting of agencies who are, how do I put this? We need to find a balance between what agencies can reasonably install, operate, and maintain, as well as benefiting as many people as possible with tactile information at each bus stop. That's one thing. I'm going on too long here, but I'll just say that there's a number of additional other things that we're considering. Testing as well, tactile pathways within station facilities. That's for folks who are blind or low vision as well. And the use of high contrast maps, for example, that's something else that could help as well. But more information will be coming as we move forward and continue that planning effort into next year. And you'll get a preview of that, Councilmember Gordon, as part of the accessibility working group meetings.
Councilmember Gordon, thank you for that answer.
Thank you. What a wonderful presentation. And I'd like to add to what was shared. Sorry, what a wonderful presentation. I'd like to add to what was shared. We also had in person for individuals who may be hearing impaired or vision impaired or even some type of learning disability, such as Christopher. And we went either as a group or we went on our own, and we took, like for Christopher, I watched and see how he did it, and because he can't read very well, he took a picture with his phone and had it read out loud to him. And now, as you know, they have glasses, right? And so I saw someone who was hearing impaired, visual impaired, excuse me, had the camera glasses, and apparently they were able, he asked somebody, where's the sign, and they told him, and then they were able to use their glasses to hear what it was that they were looking at. So I thought that was very creative, you know, when we don't have, we can improvise, right? And so now I'm thinking to do the same for Chris, because what if the phone dies or something in that nature? We talked about that in our group. Can we rely on our internet? What if the internet is not well or your network system is not great? But she told me she has not had any time without her glasses not working. So I thought about doing that. It is kind of costly, so we'll probably look for some alternatives for funding to offset maybe some of that cost for individuals with disability. That's my goal. Check. Anyways, and so it was really good, especially when you go in person, and the signs that we saw were challenges we were able to share in the group, which we'll be meeting next week on the 21st. So, and everyone in the group participates. How many people is in our group?
I think we have about 8 to 10 who are regulars.
Regulars, yes. And then some people, they sent in their questions. So I'm glad you asked that question, because it has always been a challenge. Mm-hmm. And like you said, when you go from one bus system to another bus system, some is considered and some is not. And the elevator has definitely been a challenge. People, because we want people not to ask, because you never know who you're asking and could they be trustworthy. So, and that was brought up in the group, so I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be part of it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Councilmember. Anyone else from the board? All right. Manny, anyone wishing to make public comment?
No speakers at this time, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to 6B, a proclamation that we will present to Patricia Carr. Please join me. You remember how to get here up here, right? Been here before, right? A few times. Well, this is the best part of my job here as chair, is reading these proclamations. So this is a proclamation of Solano County Transit, Soltrans, recognizing Patricia Carr upon her retirement. Yes. Wow. You don't look like you should be retiring. You want to do another 10 years?
No.
No, okay. All right. Whereas Patricia Carr served as Soltrans General Manager from October 2016 to July 2024, and as Project Manager for the Soltrans Electrification Infrastructure Construction Project from July 24 through September 25, and whereas Patricia Carr managed the construction of Soltrans' electrical infrastructure in fiscal year 24-25 to charge an all-electric local fleet, including rebidding the project 3 times, and working closely with the construction manager and contractor to ensure the project was completed on budget and timely. And whereas Patricia Carr also developed a cost-effective, creative solution to hide elevated charging equipment from view using public art that beautifies the surrounding area and celebrates local history. And Patricia Carr, wow, managed the public art and beautification project in 2020 at the Vallejo Transit Center that includes sculptures, mosaics, and artistic benches reflecting the diversity of the city of Vallejo, highlighting local artists and creating a sense of community pride. And whereas Patricia Carr effectively negotiated the purchase of land adjacent to Soltrans operation and maintenance facility, leaving a legacy and setting Soltrans up for success in future visionary and expansion efforts. And whereas Patricia Carr's heartfelt dedication was reflected in her tireless efforts to keep Soltrans facilities in a state of excellent repair, she helped build camaraderie among our staff by providing countless delicious home-cooked meals and hosting team-building events during her personal time, and her facilities projects have lasting impact on the agency for years to come. Therefore, it is proclaimed on this 15th day of January 2026 by the Governing Board of Soltrans that Soltrans does hereby express sincere appreciation and gratitude to Patricia Carr for her dedication and achievements, and does congratulate her on the occasion of her retirement. You sure? I got a couple more words to go. On her retirement, and wish her the best in her future endeavors. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Yep, got a photo. Thank you.
Thank you.
How about 5?
And what I want to say is this project has been a work of many people, especially in Soltrans in this room. So it's not just me. However, it's also, as you said, it was rebid several times and long, long years. But I tell you, it's probably one of the most satisfying part of my very long career. And I'm going to miss it, but I have other things to do. In fact, I have 2 people here from Solano Community College Education Foundation, and I'll probably be serving on their board. So I'm moving on, but I will always, I'm just around the corner, 5 minutes away. I'll be here a lot. Thank you very much.
Can I say something? Do you mind? Can I just say real quick, say to Pat, in all my years in public contracting, I've never met somebody who started a job with little knowledge of public contracting, and by the end of her time, knew more than people who had been in the field for 30 years. She dove in on every single project. She would come up to Fairfield and bring me coffee and eggs, and we would sit and we would go over projects, and we would talk about how to improve bid specs and everything from design and implementation. And I have just been blessed to work with somebody so knowledgeable as you. It's been great. Yeah.
Pat, I just want to say, someone who served as on chair for the Soltrans PAC leader, I am so excited for the work that you have been dedicated. You've heard from everyone, you listened to everyone, and you implemented. But not only that, when we had concerns about the bus stops and their needs, you were committed to that, and I appreciate you. And then I'm so happy that you use local artists when you design for the fleet and also where it's located, from even thinking of having the charger from above and not on the ground. I mean, just every part of it. I am so proud to have the opportunity to be in your space, and I've learned a lot from you. And I'm definitely trying not to cry because I think you are just a wonderful person, and we're going to really miss you. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you.
Manny, are there any persons willing? Oh, Alma, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, I do.
Please.
I entered this space in 2020 when we were still shut down and still under COVID protocols. And so it was like jumping into a space that you're just virtually seeing people and listening to people, and that's your introduction. And you're seeing it's so visible in face because Zoom is like right in your face, the passion that people bring. And then meeting you in person, and then seeing not only the legacy projects that you've left to the community and to the agency, but how wonderful you are at being able to translate some of that information over to not only us as policymakers, as individuals who are brought in to try to make really tough decisions and big decisions, but also from a very grassroots level with people. Like out there in the neighborhoods, people represented, their voice are advocated for, and we could hear it every single time. So I just want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the work and the legacy that you leave, and I've enjoyed all of our conversations. I've enjoyed all the times that you've connected with me and just helped me understand more of the work and what it means as well, so thank you.
No public speakers at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Next item is number 7A and B. The next item is on the consent calendar. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be adopted in one motion unless a request for removal or explanation is received from a board member. Items removed from the consent calendar shall be considered immediately following the adoption of the consent calendar. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on item 7A or 7B on the consent calendar? Seeing none, we'll move to the board. Is anyone wishing to remove an item from the consent calendar? I'm looking for then a motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Thank you. When I call your name, please state your vote into the microphone, please. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Young. Director Gordon.
Aye.
Chair Scott.
Yes.
Vice Chair Source.
Yes.
And Director Mashburn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll now move to the regular calendar, item number 8, the PARS retirement plan evaluation report. Christina?
Good afternoon, Chair Scott, members of the board. Here to present the annual valuation for our pension plan. Just to refresh your memory, Soltrans has a standalone pension plan that's administered by PARS. So we're not in PERS, it's not reciprocal. It's just our plan. And we did a valuation last year as required. It's required to have one every 2 years. And we brought that to you a year ago. We opted to have one this year again, even though it wasn't specifically required, because we've been trying to deal with our, get our unfunded liability down. And we also had a mix in staffing, changing the demographics. When you only have 14 active employees, every hire really changes the demographics of your mix and can change your contribution rates. So because of all of our efforts, our plan is now 98% funded. which is amazing. And our investments have been doing very, very well. The investment returns are in your report. We have been able to lower the contribution rate, which should bring us some budget savings for the agency. And additionally, the employee rate was also was able to be dropped from 7.75% to 7%. So in essence, the employees got a 0.75% raise, but every little bit helps. And so we're feeling very confident for the future of the plan that we're going to maintain a pretty high funding level, and we'll continue to monitor. But we wanted to go ahead and bring that to you as an action item to present. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let me make one comment that I think I've made before, Deputy Director. I don't think any city official up here would not be jumping for joy if they could read that the plan is 98.8% funded. That is an outstanding challenge that has been met, and thank you for all of the hard work in order to achieve that. I mean, the results are incredible. The amount of asset value in the plan is up almost 20%, a little over 22%. It is just an incredible number. So thank you for all of that hard work in ensuring the stability and long-term viability of the POWERS program. And if we could borrow you for our city, I think Mayor Young over here would be very happy to see a 98.8% funded. Mayor Young?
Thanks. So one of the differences that I saw when I looked at your report is that our plan allows us to invest in equities.
Yes.
Which...
That's normal for a pension trust.
Yeah, all I'm saying is that it's not the same for our...
okay. That might be the funding policy that
we are very
city
limited
council has adopted.
and we can only invest in bonds and, sort of AAA rated bonds, and we can't really speculate in equities. And so I think that might explain part of the overperformance or underperformance on our side, but it's a structural issue.
Right.
But I'm glad you have that flexibility.
Yes.
Thanks.
We also have the benefit of our plan only being in existence for, a dozen years. So, we're striving to keep it as funded as we can. And when the unfunded liability started growing over the last few years, I took another look at it to see what we could do to. And we didn't actually change our funding mix. We left it the same, and the market just was in our favor this last year. So it's obviously something that's going to waver from year to year. So.
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you so much for this excellent report. See, I like seeing numbers, and so this was on point. It was easy for me to comprehend and then dive deep. And this was excellent. I'm so happy to hear. How did you do it? So definitely, I'm very proud of it, and you should be very proud of yourself, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah, just very briefly, I'll echo what the chair said. Once I saw this, I remembered sitting down here a year ago, new to the board, and hearing about the retirement plan and being incredibly impressed and a little bit jealous, and remain so. So thank you for your hard work on this, for being forward-thinking. It's just, it's a huge achievement. I don't think a lot of folks understand how difficult it is to plan for unfunded liabilities, and especially with so much uncertainty, and the fact that Soltrans is in such a good position is very much appreciated by, I think the whole board is unanimous in that area.
Thank you. Any members of,
I was going to move approval, but we have public comment, so go right ahead.
anyone wishing to make public comment?
Through the chair, no members of the public signed up to speak on this item.
Right, Mayor Soares?
Yeah, do we need to move to formally receive this?
No approval is needed.
All right, then, just kidding.
So we have a recommendation to receive the actuarial valuation report as of June 30th, 2025 for the Solano County Transit PARS retirement plan. The report has been received, and seeing no further discussion, the agenda item is closed, and we will move on to item 8B. This is the open public comment period for the proposed revision to Soltrans ADA paratransit no-show policy.
Hi, good afternoon, members of the Soltrans board and guests. Soltrans is proposing minor revisions to its ADA paratransit no-show policy and would like the board to open a public comment period and close with a public hearing at next month's meeting on February 19th. The no-show policy was created in 2013 and hasn't been revised since. During the recent zero-finding FTA triennial, yay, a casual discussion with the auditor resulted in our decision to review the policy. The specific discussion was that many agencies use a 30-day rolling period rather than a calendar month to tally no-shows. Calendar month was fine, but the 30-day period offered more flexibility both for riders and the agency. When we reviewed the policy, we noticed its clarity could be improved, and in addition to revising the calendar month to a rolling 30-day period to tally the no-shows, our operations manager, Ron Freeman, suggested we shorten the advance cancellation notice so that window so that we could adjust the schedule with just an hour. They don't have to do it for 2 hours in advance, just 1 hour in advance. We'd also like to include the appeals policy, which was not in the initial no-show policy. And we would like to hear your feedback on the proposed policy revisions and for board direction as staff begin the public outreach process. An outreach period is a standard process transit agencies use to ensure that the public has an opportunity to provide feedback on policy changes. And with that, I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Angel. I'm going to, before I open it up to the board, I just have one question. By reducing the cancellation window from 2 hours to 1 hour, what does that do for operational scheduling? Because you have less time to change that order to pick up that person. What does that do, and how does that affect your scheduling?
It is fairly easy to do. Most agencies have a 1 hour cancellation window. Bigger agencies have even less. And it's not hard to do because the dispatchers communicate with the bus operators through an MDT or a panel that tells them they can move on to their next trip. Sometimes it might make someone a little early and they may have to wait a little longer. But we're hoping that once we begin implementing if the policy is approved next month, implementing that, the notices go out every time there's a no-show, and it'll reduce the total amount. And the benefit to the public, I think, also outweighs that, because sometimes, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make it, and then you get an hour before, and you're like, oh, my tummy's not doing good, I can't do this appointment.
All right. How much is the cancellation fee?
There's no fee.
Okay.
No fee.
Councilmember Gordon?
Thank you so very much, and I appreciate that. And so this is basically what will go out to the public?
Yes, the highlighted areas indicate the things that'll be added, and then the redlined are the things that will be removed.
I appreciate that, and I thank you for the 1 hour versus the 2 hour, because like you said, you think you're going to make it, and then you don't, and then you're stuck, and then so I appreciate that. What was the PAC conversation regarding this?
That goes to the PAC on the 29th. Or 28th. I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple of members. We wanted to get the council chambers. That's been a preference of the PAC, but it wasn't available on the 28th, so we're determining which date.
So may I ask, when this comes back to us, could you please make sure that we do get some feedbacks from PAC?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that, and I really do appreciate. So how would the community get this information? Would it be mailed to them and then also pass out to them on the
yes.
transportation?
As noted in the staff report, we have a bunch of different places we want to do it. We're going to put a a voice message on the hold when they go for a dispatch, when they call dispatch to schedule their trip, there'll be a message that says, hey, don't forget that there's a policy that we'd like your feedback on, and some details will be there. There are signs already printed, ready to go on the bus, provided there are no changes needed to them. We will also be mailing a letter to every active riding paratransit customer. I've already had our contractor review that list, whittle it down. I've been working through the addresses, calling people myself to make sure the addresses are right. Those will go out tomorrow, and Mandy has already prepared the survey, the QR code to the survey, and how to send your feedback is provided on that letter, on the signs that go on the bus. It'll be the staff who are answering those calls and making those reservations will also be there to answer questions and complete a survey for anyone who'd rather just call it in, which is usually more common, we find. So we have lots of opportunities.
Well, thank you so much. It's so great to see you. I just have one more one more suggestion and recommendation. One, on our website via social, and then the official website would probably be great to also have this posted.
Yes, they will definitely be there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Mayor Hernandez?
Yes, I'm wondering if you can educate me here a little bit. In regards to scheduling ADA paratransit, so the individual schedules, how far in advance can they schedule?
A maximum of 7 days and a minimum of 1 day.
Okay, and is there any auto reminder that they have something scheduled 7 days out?
There is an option where they can sign up for a telephone reminder.
Okay. Do we have any technology that it can send a text auto reminder?
Yes, it does
Okay.
that as well. You can sign up for text or phone call.
Is there any possibility to auto-enroll the person who's scheduling to have auto text for?
We can certainly look into that. Usually we give them the option because some folks don't want those, but we can auto-enroll and have them opt out.
I mean, that would be, my wonder is we can test pilot, for example. I'm thinking about when I'm scheduling for the airport, my airline, and I enroll to the just auto text of whatever's happening, and it's a reminder of something, because in those instances, you know, my mind is full of all the things as I travel. I can imagine someone who requires paratransit has a life that is more of that on a more daily basis, for example. So there's a lot of things happening, medication issues, life, whatever might be happening for someone who has a different type of circumstances in their day-to-day life, that just having it just to be able to remember automatically may not be the same.
Yes.
So my wonder is, what systems that we have that are low requirement of people, like just the auto text, for example, that is an indicator to the person, hey, remember you have this, and if you need to cancel, click here, or call here, right? As a this is their cue to the next instruction is how can we just make that a flow so it benefits, it's mutually beneficial to the agency because it maximizes the efficiency of what we have available to be able to offer services elsewhere when this person's not going to take advantage of it, but also reduces the penalties to someone who already has a lot on their life.
Yes.
So my wonder if that's even a possibility based on technology that we have available, what can we test pilot to see? And the response to that?
And I think we'd love to do that. Yeah, I'd
Well,
love
that
to
would
do
be-
that.
that'd be a recommendation.
I'm not sure how much detail it can go into, but I'll investigate, and when we come back in February, I'll bring you my findings.
Yes, because I see that, so it looks like it's the third offense that creates the first penalty, right?
No, it's 3 no-shows and 10% of rides, and it's a warning letter.
A warning letter.
The actual no-show doesn't, every time there's a no-show, there's a little card dropped in the mail that says, hey, you got a no-show, here's the policy, let us know if this was beyond your control. Because the idea is not to penalize, it's to improve productivity, encourage compliance, but not penalize. This is already a group that is generally can be struggling. So we don't want to make that any harder. So
Yeah.
there's a warning letter. You've had 3 no-shows, and it's made up 10% of your trips. But, so if it happens in the next 30 days, then there's a suspension letter sent, the opportunity to appeal, and
I really like that appeal in there. I think that that's yeah, it's perfect. Yeah, the appeal process, just to be like, life happened, and please don't penalize me for 28 days because I really need this to get to my doctor's appointments, right?
Absolutely.
So just having that, it personalizes the customer service experience, but also is a really great way to capture data, quantitative data.
yes.
I know we love data.
Yes.
So of like, what are we seeing that helps us continue to support individuals that are struggling? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
I really like that idea that our mayor shared, because where I was at, all she had to do was hit, because her chair broke down at the last minute, and she was able to hit council on the phone. And so they have a 30-minute window because the city's smaller, I'm assuming, but she was able to hit council due to technical something she pressed. But I watched the whole process, and I thought that was a great idea. So I think we should reconsider that thought. And same for me personally. I wasn't able to meet an appointment. I had a reminder, and I was able to cancel that right there. And it was easy, so I appreciate that idea. Because today's technology, it's everything, Thank you.
Again, thank you for adding another rider-centric program that enhances the rider experience and makes it easier for those who need to get along and who are dependent on mass transportation, and in this case, mobility, an easier way to get through the process. So thank you very much. I will open it up now to public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No speakers on this item at this time.
All right. We have a 3-part recommendation. Provide feedback on the proposed revision of the ADA paratransit no-show policy, which I think we did. Authorize staff to begin outreach to Soltrans ADA paratransit riders to obtain feedback on the proposed revision of Soltrans ADA paratransit no-show policy. And 3, schedule a public hearing to occur during the February 19th, 2026 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation? We have a motion,
I'll second it.
and we have a second. Please call the roll.
Thank you. When I call your name, please state your vote. Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Young. Director Gordon.
Aye.
Chair Scott.
Aye.
Vice Chair Source.
Aye.
And Director Mashburn.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will now move on to item 8C, the use of Soltrans Transportation Act, TDA funding, and review of the City of Benicia's LIFT funding. Beth, you're going to take it?
I am. Thank you, Chair. When Soltrans became Soltrans and the cities of Vallejo and Benicia joined the JPA, there was a transfer of assets agreement dated April 26, 2012, which detailed that those respective TDA funds that previously went to those cities would be allocated directly to Soltrans. Going forward, the city of Benicia was given the impression that they needed to do a resolution approved by STA to get TDA funds, and that is not accurate. What the city of Benicia needs to do is ask Soltrans for the TDA funds, and we can work out an agreement. For example, this year, STA was asking for $80,000 for the LIFT program. What we are suggesting, because everybody's got some fiscal cliffs and we have to tighten our belts, Soltrans would like to allocate $40,000 in TDA funds to the city of Benicia and ask that they put some guardrails on the program in terms of maybe limiting the usage, like allowing a certain number of rides per month per person, putting other restrictions on it that may lower the usage a little bit. But the real crux of the matter is if you need the TDA dollars, you need to come to Soltrans to ask, and then we allocate from there. So with this item, we're asking for the vice chair to send a letter to the City of Benicia detailing the process and we can move forward from there.
So if I understand this correctly, there is a possible arrangement to cover the first portion of the LIFT program, which is $40,000 of the $80,000 required. That can be handled via a letter to you requesting that funding. And then at the same time or during the upcoming couple of months, the city of Benicia would then be responsible for providing or collaborating on some guardrails, like increasing the cost of the lift or number of rides or whatever comes through in order to cover the second part, which is due in the end of this fiscal session. So we have the attorney here. So Bernadette, can you give us your opinion of that, as well as a statement of why STA is saying that they need to claim the dollars in order to pay for the $80,000 required for the LIFT program compared to the program the potential program that we just discussed?
Yeah, I think you have to go back to, as Beth started, with regards to the transfer of assets. So as she stated, once we formed, we got the JPA executed by all three parties. At that point in time, we then started negotiating between Soltrans and the cities of Benicia and the city of Vallejo as to how to transfer all of the assets over. And it was through that agreement, first the interim transfer of assets agreement, and then once we worked through some issues associated with Vallejo's bankruptcy, which was going on at the time, that precluded the transfer of title for 1850 Broadway, we then executed the actual transfer of assets. And that included transferring over the rolling stock, transferring over the bus stops, transferring over the right to claim funding. And that's where the issue or the confusion has been, is that at the point in time where Benicia and Vallejo said, Soltrans, take over our transit system, Benicia and Vallejo said, take the TDA and you have the right to claim it. That's what she's talking about in these two agreements. So the issue is that Soltrans has the contractual right to claim the TDA. It is Benicia who needs to talk to Soltrans, not Benicia and STA. Benicia talks to Soltrans and says, we would like to claim some of that TDA that we've already given to you, Soltrans. We would like to claim it for this particular purpose. In conversations with the executive director, we think that that's the legitimate, lawful way to do it. Once Benicia makes the request, Soltrans will then say, we allow you to claim some of that on that behalf. We can work out whether or not it is STA that makes the claim, whether or not it's Benicia that makes the claim for this particular one. But right now, every time this board adopts that resolution to claim the TDA, you're taking all of Benicia's TDA. And so it's just clarifying the process, negotiating the guardrails between how Benicia wants to run the program. Obviously, through FTA audits, Soltrans cannot run this particular program. It's not blessed by FTA. So it has to be run by another entity. So that next step comes after the approval by this board to then allocate some of the TDA to Benicia for this particular program.
So I think you understand, in speaking on behalf of the city of Benicia, the confusion that Soltrans claims the TDA dollars. The city of for the city of Benicia. So those TDA dollars that come in for specifically transit use for the city of Benicia come in, yet STA manages the program. Okay. So they're saying because they manage the program, and I know I don't want to continue to be repetitive on this, but it seems like we're on a hamster wheel here, that TDA dollars that we believed the city of Benicia owned, and we could say we want spent on behalf of the LIFT program, technically, according to the agreement, the joint powers agreement, is not possible.
It's actually one step from the joint powers agreement. So the joint powers agreement says, y'all's are going to play nice in the sandbox. Venetia's going to play nice in the sandbox, Vallejo's going to play nice in the sandbox, and STA is going to play nice in the sandbox. Those are the three parties to the JPA. Once the JPA was formed, then it was a matter of standing up this little baby entity that has come a hell of a long way since 2010 and 2011. That entity, this newly formed entity, Soltrans, said, what are we going to use to operate the transit system? The TDA, as I understand it, population-based, based on Venetia population, based on Vallejo population. But the legal right to claim the TDA dollars, even though it's population-based Venetia, population-based Vallejo, comes to the entity which is providing transit service in that joint area. And that was allocated by your respective cities to Soltrans to claim through first the interim transfer of assets agreement, which says, all right, let's get those buses rolling. And it was a glorious day, and it happened on July 1st, and we all celebrated the fact when Soltrans officially became the contracted operator to run transit. Then, after we did that interim transit, because we had to get through the bankruptcy of the city of Vallejo, we then went through the transfer of assets agreement and then said, all right, let's transfer 311 Sacramento in fee title from the city of Vallejo to Soltrans. We have not yet transferred 1850 Broadway. It's under a long-term lease because we got to get it out through the bond documents that are using that as collateral. And once that's done, 1850 will come to Soltrans. Venetia never had actual property, and so it was just the rolling stock, and what you had was the transit asset, which was your TDA dollars. The cities took action to execute that agreement and gave that right to Soltrans. Venetia can come back to Soltrans and say, we entered into this agreement, we would like to modify that agreement and claim some of this. And that becomes a negotiation between the city of Venetia and Soltrans. Yes, we do have two members, and I just want to address the issue. It's not a conflict with the two of you sitting here, because neither of you, I made a joke with Suzanne earlier, and unless either of you are a Lyft driver, you're not benefiting personally from the contract of this program. So even though the two of you are on the Venetia City Council, you are not personally vested in this conversation, and therefore, under Government Code 1090 et sec, you are legitimately not conflicted from this conversation. So you do not have to conflict yourself out. I would also note that under the JPA, you're actually obligated to participate because every vote of this body needs an affirmative vote by a member of Venetia and a member of Vallejo. Therefore, by the rule of necessity, we need one of you to actually provide direction on this particular one. So I just want to clarify that particular conflict, if that makes sense.
And I think we both understand that. I think we're just trying to understand that wider frame of the statement that you made, that TDA dollars are turned over for transit, turned over to...
Well, I mean, they're per the agreement, you said, you, as in the city of Venetia, when we formed Soltrans, you, Venetia, and you, Vallejo, said, we want this entity, Soltrans, to operate our transit system. At the time, those many years ago, there was not an Uber-Lyft program. Uber and Lyft wasn't a thing, right? So circumstances have changed. So acknowledging that, that is a conversation between Venetia and Soltrans. Once that has been decided, then whoever operates the program, whether it's STA who wants to operate the program or Venetia wants to operate the program, that is the secondary issue. Mm-hmm. It's first a conversation between city, whether it's, if Vallejo wanted to ask, but right now the ask is coming from Venetia. Venetia asks of Soltrans, can we use some of these money? As your executive director has said, it's already been budgeted for this year. And so that TDA claim has already been factored into the budget that your fabulous deputy director has put together, you know, a balanced budget. So it's a budget issue. You make a request, you as in city make a request. We're just saying the process is don't put the cart before the horse. It's not a matter of Venetia approving a resolution and STA going to claim. You don't have the right yet, City of Venetia, until Soltrans allows you to have that right per the agreement, the transfer of asset agreement, that says it's already yours.
Right. Mayor Young?
Thank you. So if I understand what you're saying, you say that the agreement from 2011 or 2012 sort of exists in perpetuity, and that any money that comes in the next 100 years belongs to Soltrans.
For transit purposes.
For transit purposes. I find this a little ironic, where we have been complaining about STA micromanaging Soltrans programs, and now we have a situation where Soltrans is saying to STA, you can't operate a program that we have nothing to do with other than the FTA money portion. I just think that's an interesting.
Yeah, may I clarify? I'm not saying STA can't. I'm just saying the process is that once the parties executed the transfer of assets, right? We formed Soltrans, and once we formed this legal entity, and we gave birth to this little baby transit agency, Benicia and Vallejo said, take our transit dollars, take the dollars that are allocated to transit, and go operate transit on our behalf. And that's what Soltrans has been doing. And I'm not saying that STA can't. I'm just saying that the process is that the TDA dollars have been assigned to Soltrans to manage. If the city of Benicia or the city of Vallejo would like to assign their TDA dollars in a different way, and then it's just a matter of negotiating an agreement, whether or not we have to amend the transfer of asset agreement, whether or not it's a side agreement just between Benicia and Soltrans. So it's not a matter of the second step of the managing. Once the money gets to STA to manage that program, Soltrans is out of it. But the precursor of saying that Benicia has the right to claim the TDA dollars, that's what I'm taking issue with. You don't have the right to take issue because you contracted that right to Soltrans. You can amend that because it's just a contract. Contracts can be amended. But you contracted that right to claim the TDA dollars. And now Benicia needs to come to Soltrans to say, can we carve out a little bit for this particular program to augment the transit service in our jurisdiction? And then it comes back to this board here, and you say, yes, we agree.
Okay, and what you also said was that Chair Scott and I, one of us are going to have to vote yes on this, or it fails.
Yeah.
Interesting, okay. One of the things that was in the staff report said that if...
I'm sorry, real quick. One of you has to vote, whether it's under the rule of necessity or I'm saying I don't think you have a legal conflict. But if one of you wants that to happen, one has to be affirmative because all majority votes have to include one affirmative from each jurisdiction.
And if we both vote no...
If you both vote no, then it's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's on the agenda for the council for Tuesday. It's on consent. We can pull it off consent. We will pull it off consent. I would suggest that one of you probably should be there to explain this, why this is happening. In the report, it says that if you had to cut $80,000 or transfer $80,000 for STA, that it would basically undercut or minimize or reduce the amount of school trippers. How much money are you currently spending on the school tripper program?
$80,000 is a half a year of school tripper cost.
Okay, so $160,000
Yes.
is the cost.
Correct.
We get through the allocation that we're talking about, $1.4 million that comes to Soltrans. We've been providing that 1.4 for 15 years. So more than $15 million has come to Soltrans.
Yes.
We get $150,000, maybe $200,000 worth of service a year when you add in the special events that you come and do. But if it's, you can tell me, but it's not going to be $1 million. It's a long way from $1 million.
Right.
Agreed?
Agreed, but you also have the yellow line and the blue line that go through Benicia.
And so Solano Express
Yes.
is also paid partially with this.
Correct.
And you think that collectively that accounts for $1 million or $1.5 million?
can't tell you off the top of my head, but I think so. We were looking at this about a month ago. I could certainly pull those numbers together.
It would be
to get to
helpful,
you
I
what the
think.
cost by route is.
Because I think, this may be an example of trying to, so it sounds like if we want to go ahead and get $80,000, and you're saying that it's not legally possible, our only option might be to withdraw from the JPA. We do have that right.
You do, but what we're trying to say is we want to work with you.
Well, I
We
know,
under-
but
we
for
understand.
$40,000,
Yeah.
you're cutting off your nose to spite your face.
What I just want to remind you, though, is that it's just a process. And that if this board wants to spend $80,000 and provide $80,000 to the Benicia lift, then this board then directs staff, take $80,000 out of the budget and send it over to Benicia to then give to STA. That is a budgetary decision, and you all have the budgetary right to take your budget, and whether it's you want it to all go to school trippers, you want it to augment something more, that is a decision of this board. And so it's a budget issue. And so that's what I'm saying is that I'm trying to simplify it down. It is a process. Benicia asks Soltrans. Once Benicia asks Soltrans, and you then sitting with your Soltrans hat say, yes, I think it's a great idea, you then approve the ask of giving $80,000 back to Benicia to run this program. That's what you vote then here, sitting collectively as a Soltrans board.
Okay, so one option could be that we approve $40,000 for a 6-month period, and then when the next budget comes around, which is going to happen in what, May? We find another $40,000 at that point.
Yes, if that's what you so desire to do, sure.
Because I think we will have discussions about the budget and where areas where we might want to reduce service anyway, or cut staff, or cut whatever.
Right.
Just to make that happen. So I would be open to that kind of a compromise, but I'm not going to support this the way it's written. Thanks.
And I think that's what the executive director is suggesting, that we commit to $40,000, and in the ensuing few months, find a way via application and then through the board, the additional $40,000 to cover the entire $80,000. At the same time, this would provide the city of Benicia the opportunity to look at additional guardrails on spending, in the sense that the $5 lift program may be the $6 lift program, and looking at the velocity of ridership in this program. It is an incredibly successful and well-loved program. I think, a dollar or two is not going to change the success or the use of it, and we may find that there's going to be some less than the $40,000 that would be required, but nonetheless, suggestions. So I think that's where we're kind of sitting, which would require the resolution to be tabled.
Or we amend the resolution to give the full 80. Or we amend the resolution to give the full 80,000, and the board can do that today.
Right, which I don't think we can do that tonight here.
We can.
Or can we do that tonight?
The resolution is from the city of Benicia for STA.
Right.
So we're saying, you don't need that. You just need to ask us for the money, and we'll work it that way. You don't need a resolution.
Well, STA says they need something from us.
Or Soltrans claims the money and then has an agreement with, in my suggestion would be a 3-party agreement between Soltrans, STA, and Benicia. And Soltrans would say, we're going to give the money, and these are going to be the guardrails that Soltrans is asking for to put on the program. And then in the agreement, we can spell out, is Benicia going to run the program, or is STA going to run the program? But what your executive director is saying, you don't need a resolution because Soltrans claims the STA, that TDA. Soltrans claims the TDA funds. They reside with Soltrans. So Benicia needs to say, Soltrans, please we'd like 80,000, but will you give us 40,000 in fiscal year 25, 26? And when can we talk about fiscal year 26, 27? And Soltrans then comes back to this board, and this board says, absolutely. Or somebody says, no, we don't want that. We want 120, or we only want to give 20,000, whatever it is. I understand that it's a popular program in Benicia, and I understand that there's a desire. And so what the conversations that we've had, we're not saying you can't do it, that Benicia can't do it. It's just a matter of, what comes first? Who's on first? Is it the cart, the horse? Soltrans claims the TDA. Therefore, STA doesn't need a resolution, Benicia doesn't need a resolution, because the resolution has already been approved by this board here to claim the dollars. It's Benicia asking for that money, and then Soltrans, through this board, approving it and saying, yes, we agree that that is a legitimate use, but we would like to see some sort of guardrails so the program doesn't expand exponentially to the point where it further impacts transit operations.
And we could do that today.
I think that the title is broad enough under the Brown Act to say it's the use of TDA, right? And so I think that even though the recommendation is for a letter and communication, I think this board could say, no, we would like to tell Benicia, we approve the use of this funds. You need to come back to us with the guardrails and execute an agreement that will be approved by this board, and then off you go. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. In other words, I think your agenda item is broad enough, even though the recommendation was a letter. I think the agenda item is broad enough under the Brown Act to allow you to provide direction back to staff on this one.
Mayor Soares?
Yeah, thank you. This makes sense to me in terms of what needs to happen. I don't personally have any issue with, I think there's a need for, the program's popular in Benicia, and there's a certain demographic and geography in Benicia that requires different types of transit. I think for our purposes right now, I think we're almost having the wrong conversation. And the conversation that I want to have is how we got to this point, because STA budgeted for the Benicia Lift program. How was for this fiscal year, how is that program funded for this fiscal year through STA, and why are they demanding suddenly midway through the year Benicia's TDA dollars that are coming through Soltrans, and why are they going to the city of Benicia when they know that the TDA funds come to Soltrans? I want to see STA's budget, and I want to see where the funding for the Benicia Lift program was supposed to come from, and I want to know whether STA budgeted funds that they didn't have access to, because that's a problem. And then we're going to have a different conversation. And at the meeting last night, one of the things that came up very suddenly, and the mayors that are here and Supervisor Mashburn knows this, was they tried to get us to end around into a motion committing Vallejo and Benicia's TDA funds to locally fund our lift programs in order to divert funding to Solano Express, which that board did not have authorization to do. And I caught it because I was the one making the motion, but that really alarmed me as well. I want to know whether STA is committing Vallejo and Benicia's TDA funds without any authorization to do so. And I think that requires our two cities and this board to very strongly affirm and re-clarify what the process is. And then once we have that conversation, we can have a conversation about how to best use Benicia's TDA funds to serve the city of Benicia and the people of Benicia, which I think, again, I can only speak for myself. I am more than happy to have that conversation, and I'll commit, I don't know if I'm pushing it at a Soltrans board meeting saying this, but I think Benicia and Vallejo need to have a conversation now just about partnership, because part of what created Soltrans in 2010 was a hand when Vallejo was going bankrupt. And we came together and we consolidated to serve our community together and, not lose service during a fiscal emergency. And I want Vallejo to be there for Benicia again. So that I want to have that conversation, and I genuinely want to have a conversation about the TDA funds and how that fits into other ways we can partner. What I don't want to do is get taken advantage of by a weird process that may or may not even be legal. So I'd like to look at that budget and see if STA budgeted our funds or was trying to get us to allocate funds when we didn't have a right to do so. And I would like clarification on that, because I think that's just, like, that's a separate conversation. And, you know, to what Byrne said about playing in the sandbox, like, to me, that is not playing in the sandbox. That is throwing stones. And I don't appreciate it, and I think we need to put our foot down.
I do want to clarify, I do believe that at consortium, and I don't have the exact date of when it was, is that in years past, STA took to consortium and STA had consortium bless the use of Benicia TDA. It wasn't until the amount creep that it came to my attention of saying, hey, wait a minute, per the, because I didn't follow consortium agendas, and so it wasn't until the request from 40 to 80 that it went, wait a minute, you don't have the right. So to
like,
STA's credit, it did go, that I do believe that 40,000 went to consortium, and that at consortium it was approved. It never came back to this body. It never came back to the Soltrans board to say, yes, we agree. And so there was a conversation at consortium that said, hey, can we use this TDA?
So and what's the relationship between consortium and the boards? Because, yeah, consortium can't
And then
commit
it went up
funds.
to STA board, and then they claimed it and went on. That's what I'm saying, is that it started at consortium, but a small amount, and so it was.
So did we vote at STA to commit Benicia's TDA funds?
I believe a couple of years ago, yes.
I don't know that that's what should have happened. I think the city council of Benicia and Soltrans, well, I think Soltrans needs to make that decision, but I don't want to make the decision as Soltrans without the Benicia city council weighing in. I think like I said, I want to have a different conversation right now about process, because this is shady. I mean, I'm just going to say it.
Well, this is the issue right at the top. As Mayor Young noted, we have a request from STA that we have to turn $80,000 over to them from the TDA dollars.
In the middle of the fiscal year.
Well, so are we, and that's why we were having this conversation. We're very perplexed.
And that's why I apologize, I keep going back to it. I think for purposes of the immediate need for the city of Benicia, my recommendation is a simple agreement between Benicia and Soltrans. And if this board says today that you want to allocate a certain amount, then on Tuesday, that the two members that sit in Benicia can say, Soltrans approves, it is Soltrans' right to claim, and they are in agreement that however much, X number of dollars can be claimed this fiscal year to augment an already established program, either to continue its funding or to expand it if that's what the additional funding is needed for. But to Mayor Source's point, I just want to clarify again that it is a little bit inappropriate because the TDA funds are claimed here by you all when you approve the resolution that then goes to MTC and they put forward all of the claiming forms. It is money that is included in your budget here. If you, this board, want to take some of that money that is allocated here and put it to a program, whether it's Benicia or Vallejo, that is your legal right to do. So I want to make sure that you understand. You have the legal right to make that decision here. But again, as Mayor Soar said, it's a conversation between Benicia and Soltrans. And the fact that another party is saying to Benicia and providing you what I would say is misinformation is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I just want to chime in really quick, because I do the TDA claim. We all claim money from each other's jurisdictions. Like, I claim money from multiple jurisdictions to fund Solano Express. In order to do that, because there's a funding agreement and each jurisdiction pitches in TDA, those cities, because they're cities, have to go to their councils to get resolutions that they then send to MTC, that MTC knows that I have the authority to claim those funds. I think it's just a little different because, I was talking to Alma earlier, Soltrans is a JPA. We're not part of the city councils. I could see, I think maybe from STA's point of view, the funding, the authority, just like Bern was saying, has to come from this board for STA to claim our TDA funds. But the program side of things, that really is between the city of Benicia and STA on the LIFT program, how you want to run the program, what's the parameters of the program, what authority you're going to give STA to run the program. So maybe that's what the city council needs to do is the parameters of the program, but the funding comes from us. If that makes sense.
Which I just want to add on a little historical context on that one, is that the first 2 years of claiming, we had to go through significant hoops with MTC to prove that this jurisdiction had the legal right to claim the TDA on behalf of Benicia and Vallejo. And so that fight was fought back in 2011, 2012 with MTC. MTC now knows that Soltrans claims Benicia's TDA, Vallejo's TDA, and then for those jurisdictions based on the funding agreement for the intercity transit, that they have that right. But MTC originally challenged Soltrans' right to claim the TDA, thinking that it had to be Benicia and Vallejo. And we sailed past that, and we now know that Soltrans has the right to claim that TDA. If Benicia would like to use some of it coming back for a specific purpose, that again goes back between Benicia and Soltrans. MTC recognizes and acknowledges that Soltrans has the right, the legal right to claim for Benicia and Vallejo.
I'm next, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. So what I also want to, because I heard a little tiny bit that Vallejo can claim some money as well, right? And we'll, because you said.
You have the right to ask.
We have the right to ask, okay. So then, out of the 80,000, 40,000 goes to Benicia. So how much can Vallejo have the right to ask? None?
Well, you have the right to ask, Vallejo has the right to ask of this board. And then you just complimented your deputy director on a 98.8% funded pension, right? So those are budget decisions here. So, if this board wants to take money out of your operating budget, you can do that. It's just a matter of where do you tell staff of what you want to cut? Okay. Where do you want to take that money?
All right, and my next question would be, who oversees, does any of this money goes to the taxi program that STA oversees?
Yeah, we have an agreement with STA to run our local taxi program. We ran it ourselves for years.
Right.
And then it made sense to consolidate it all under into one program for the county to run it for us. And they had the resources. So we have an agreement with STA to claim TDA from our jurisdiction. So MTC, they lump Benicia and Vallejo's TDA together. Like, I have to actually ask MTC what the split is because all of the reports show it as Soltrans. They don't show by city. So STA does claim TDA from the Soltrans jurisdiction to fund the program. I want to say it's about $100,000.
My last question would be, do we have a LIFT program here in Vallejo? Or do we have anything like that here?
What, the taxi program?
No, the LIFT program.
The LIFT?
No. No,
STA.
there are no LIFT programs here.
Is that because we didn't ask for it here?
Through the chair, it's because our TDA money goes to our local bus service. So Benicia doesn't have a local bus service.
Got you.
So their TDA goes to the school tripper and something else, and some of it is going to the LIFT program, whereas Vallejo, we have a robust local bus service. So if we wanted to pull money, if we wanted to pull TDA funds back, it would come out of our local bus service.
We don't want that.
And we don't want, I
Right.
agree with you. I think we're unanimous. We do not want that.
We
But
don't
it's a
want that.
different situation with Benicia just because of their geography and demographics. They don't have like local bus routes, if that helps.
I appreciate that because I was going to dive deep into that. So that makes thank you for the visual because, sometimes we get asked questions and sometimes we're concerned that one versus another gets left out. But this makes perfect sense. So thank you for clarifying. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor Hernandez, do you want to make a comment?
Yes. Just sitting on the sidelines here. But I did want to provide, from my perspective, a little context of what I've heard and I don't know how beneficial it is to this conversation. I have a note here, earlier it was noted 1.4 million tentative of TDA funds for Benicia comes to Soltrans. At the STA board, I've heard Mayor Young for over a year continuously talk about the lack of local transportation services for the city of Benicia riders. And over, he was looking for a way of how do we meet local needs of what we have. City of Suisun found itself in the same situation in 21. And what we did was a drastic move. We took our TDA funding, which is all claimed by FAST, the city of Fairfield, that was providing service to Fairfield and Suisun, and we took our TDA money back. That was a policy decision, right? And so part of it, when I talked to Beth a little bit about, as I was prepping for this meeting, is if the city of Benicia is struggling about what it's doing to its TDA, how do they figure that out? It really is a policy decision. It's a negotiation back of understanding like how much money is claimed by each city for TDA and its maximum use for its local services or how it's doing. What's complicated here is that we have a robust system through Soltrans. So it's not an easy decision or conversation, and it should not be something that's just in one night or one resolution. It is one that should be looked at for over a year. Suisun went over a year of studying it, looking at it, picking it apart, and understanding its implications, because it's not easy. For Benicia, when I was listening to Mayor Young advocated for the LIFT program for the city of Benicia to address the community residents' needs because they weren't receiving enough service, to his expression, at STA. One of the options was the LIFT program, right, to help address that need. It is seeing robust engagement because it's actually addressing a need that the community has. Those residents now have a way to use a system to navigate. The one recommendation I do have is the guardrails that are being mentioned is how you are also being able to provide a service at the local level, but you got to keep an eye on your budget. You can't just provide a free-for-all. Like, there has to be a cap of like how much can you afford of that service for that local level, because you don't have enough money or enough TDA or enough of that to make a robust LIFT program service. And so I think that that's a hard conversation Benicia has to have, which is, in my understanding at STA, the conversation about the 40 to 80 is because the LIFT program was successful in Benicia and they have gone over their budget. Like, right, part of that is the conversation. One of the ways to help address that is to increase the amount of money coming there. Benicia has to decide if they can't get the funding from Soltrans and they can't get it from their general fund, they have to cut the LIFT program probably in half of the service that it has available to its residents today. That's a Benicia conversation that they have to have at that level of what that means. But I think it's important to note like how it plays here, that it's not an easy conversation about how TDA funding is used, that there are implications about a bigger system with the city of Vallejo, Soltrans. I was talking to Beth about for example, the intercity funding agreement. It is very clear, and it wasn't until I sat down, I've been on this board for a minute, not too long, but enough. But it wasn't until I unpacked it that it's clearly written that the city of Vallejo and city of Benicia gave the rights to be represented in how the funding is used at the intercity funding level for Solano Express to Soltrans. Soltrans is the funding representative, funding partner in that agreement, not City of Benicia, not City of Vallejo. So I'm just noting it that it's the tension is that there's been advocacy at one agency for the LIFT program, but it looks like we missed the boat completely in talking about how does the funding work for the TDA for Benicia to be able to make those moves to begin with. And I think that that's the bridging that's happening at this time. So I'm just providing some context of what I've heard. I'm providing context about the fact that the reason the ask is being made is because of the strain of or tensions that I've heard from Benicia around the local transportation services to their residents, and the fact that you all have a very complicated funding agreement. My wonder would be, I think would be beneficial to all of us is if we could understand the TDA funding allocated for the City of Benicia and City of Vallejo, and for us to understand all the services that they are getting for the TDA funding allocations. I don't have a clear picture of what that is. So if I say they're not getting enough, let's give them 80,000. Right, just off the bat. I actually don't know if that's an accurate statement or not, if without knowing all the other services that they are receiving with that TDA funding.
Yeah,
So
and also there's ADA paratransit service throughout the entire city of Benicia.
Yeah, so those are the missing picture pieces of how the funding is being activated in the city for all the services already being received. And the answer might be that it may not be enough TDA funding, it may be general funding that has to come and bridge that gap. So my
Yeah, I think I agree about the need for further discussion. And my suggestion right now, I know we still have to do public comment, so I'm not going to make a motion yet. But my suggestion right now is I think it would make sense for this board to authorize the executive director and the staff to enter negotiations with the city of Benicia over the LIFT program with the goal of funding it. I think we need to follow up to, I want to know whether or not promises were made by another agency with budgeted funds that they didn't have access to. Like, I want to know why we're in this problem in the first place. And I think we need to do something very, very clear there's a lot of time, we have a lot of real problems that we need to solve. One of which is how do we serve Benicia residents with their, what is that use of Benicia's TDA funds going forward? And I think we need to have that conversation, but we're wasting a lot of time on these weird misunderstandings between the different parties. So I think if it's needed, we should consider passing our own resolution that clearly outlines that any decision per the JPA, any decision made by Vallejo and Benicia's, using Vallejo and Benicia's TDA funds needs to be run through Soltrans, and that the Soltrans board commits to not making any decision about Benicia or Vallejo's TDA funds without involvement of the Benicia and Vallejo city councils. And then I think the Benicia and Vallejo city councils need to do the same thing. And then I think we need to send something to STA that says, this is how this is happening. You do not allocate these cities' TDA funds without Soltrans, and Soltrans isn't going to allocate them without the cities. And again, I'm getting tired of wasting time with processes when this is actually fairly simple. Other than, again, I don't know why we're doing this mid-year suddenly. This is alarming. And I remember when we passed the STA budget. I don't want to put you on the spot, Christina, but when we passed the STA budget, you poured over that thing and identified issues, and I so appreciated it. Do you remember looking at that budget and seeing the lift, like anything weird? And it's not I'm just asking, like, we didn't flag it, so was it hidden somewhere in there, or did they really bury it in there?
Their budget is literally one piece of paper. It's so high level, and it's very hard to match up funding sources with programs.
Okay, so we need to, okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I think we need to ask with our other hats on, with this and the other hat on, like, what was done there, and kind of put a foot down and say, no, everybody needs to play by the same rules. We're not saying don't do this. We're not saying we don't want to do this. In fact, we might say we want to make this happen, and we want to make it happen at $80,000, but let's do the right process so that we don't waste a bunch of time and end up mid-year hamstringing Soltrans' budget, because they've already budgeted the TDA funds, not knowing that, that process, if needed, I would say let's take it to both the Benicia and Vallejo city councils, and I'm happy as the vice chair. I now understand why it's the vice chair, because Terry cannot write a letter to Terry. So that is why this is the vice chair, to be clear. I'm happy to write a letter to the Benicia city council on behalf of Soltrans that says, hey, FYI, like, this is the process. This is, your TDA funds go to Soltrans. Soltrans is happy to talk about the LIFT program and negotiate, and the Soltrans board has authorized that. And you don't go, your negotiations with STA are not productive because you actually should be negotiating with Soltrans. And I can do that, and I think we can do that today. Like, all of those things we can kind of go ahead and commit to.
And I think that just through the chair, I think one of the things that I would think one of the things I just want to offer as a new chair of STA, brand new, my initiation last night was interesting, like of a very robust discussion. I would like to offer to be able to connect with the chair of Soltrans and staff to streamline how we communicate about the funding pieces and the decision-making pieces, because that needs to be clear. What I'm also hearing is that we're all off. STA is off. The city of Benicia is off. We have 2 members of the city of Benicia on Soltrans board and on that city council, also completely not missing the No. 2 on the City Council of Benicia and 2 on Soltrans board, who also missed the boat of how the process is to request money for TDA through Soltrans. So we're all in it together. We're all off. And somewhere along the journey, the storyline got missed, and now it's created a lot of chaos for all of us. And it's going to be repeated over and over. We don't streamline this conversation about, for Soltrans, the actual funding process that needs to be respected, how the cities operate here, and then also how we, the decision-making process piece. So I'll stop there. I just wanted to offer that as, we have an opportunity to actually figure this out, and this is a really great example of what happens when it's completely off at every party, at the city, at Soltrans board, and at STA. Right? And I'm sure that there are people at STA staff who probably know, and yet us at the STA board, 3 of us are here, and 1 online, didn't know either. I'm like, this would have not, I didn't know that this was the process, even though I sit on both boards. So I think that there's an opportunity here to just refresh it and streamline those processes and educate us as well.
I apologize. Thank you, Chair. I have one more question. How long has the Benicia Lift program been in operation? 3 years. How has it been funded the last 2 years? Through the mobility program. So they ripped it from the mobility. So there's another conversation we have to have.
Yeah, I think what happened is STA had been funding it through the mobility program. The increasing cost was beyond what they had budgeted. And they said, okay, well, we need more money to cover it.
And I would just say, I do believe that STA looked to Sassoon and said, hey, wait a minute, in Sassoon, this is how we did it, let's go to Benicia, without realizing that STA, you were part of the conversations when we entered into the transfer of asset agreement. Soltrans is different than Sassoon. Benicia is part of Soltrans, and that's where the disconnect came, is that they negotiated directly with Sassoon when Sassoon and FAST had their divorce. That was just a contract. FAST was just a contractual agreement. It's funny, I just had it up. It's 1994 when it was first entered into, or last entered into. That was just a contractual agreement between Fairfield and Sassoon. What is different here is that back in the day, in 2010, you all, in terms of your predecessors, decided to form a separate entity. And that's what got lost, of how going directly to Benicia without realizing that Soltran is a separate legal entity from Benicia.
Supervisor Mashburn, do you have any comments you'd like to make? Okay. We probably lost him. I have the feeling that there's a very simple motion that can be made, but before we do that, we need to move to public comment. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment on this?
Through the chair, no speakers have signed up to speak on this item.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
All right. I'll move. I hope I can summarize what I just said. I move that we authorize the staff, executive director and staff, to negotiate with the city of Benicia to fund their LIFT program, and that we send a letter to the Benicia City Council outlining an amended version outlining what we talked about today and recommending guardrails on the program, and that we go ahead and authorize you to start kind of talking about that with them. And there was one other piece.
Notification.
40,000 for 6
And
months.
that we can do the 40,000 for the rest of this fiscal year,
For the rest of this fiscal year.
right? But that they can, if we authorize them to negotiate with that as a
Right.
starting point, I think
With
that's
the
good.
guardrails
Was there
and the
anything
budget.
else we needed to codify right now?
Do we?
I don't think there is. I think that's good then.
Through the end of the fiscal year.
Do we need to have any mention of notification of STA? Because they're expecting a answer from the city of Benicia on the resolution.
My recommendation would be that they would be copied on the letter.
Okay, we'll copy STA on the letter.
Copied on the letter.
Right, and it'll be a council item for Tuesday. It'll be pulled. We can discuss it if one of you two are there to explain what the situation is, and then after that meeting, we can give a more precise answer to STA.
Is it possible, I know this is such a complicated, we're like talking about actions by 3 different agencies right now, and I would recommend to the city of Benicia, perhaps if there is a staff member that can be alerted to the need to pivot, that could perhaps begin drafting an alternate resolution so that the city of Benicia does not lose time, because what you're going to have in your packet is going to be a resolution that is not useful. Maybe have an alternate resolution ready, so when it's pulled from consent, it can be updated to, that could be a recommendation that Soltrans makes to Benicia to make their Tuesday meeting more efficient.
Another recommendation, if I get authorization to contact the city attorney
Oh, we can
and
do
have the
that.
conversation.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I would say you're not going to get a different resolution in a day.
Yeah, you don't
or
need
2
a
days.
different resolution. You can do it just by an action, because again, we're saying, we don't need a resolution from you.
Oh,
It's
I
the
see.
action, it's just the recognition. I don't, you have a wonderful city attorney, but he was not part of the city attorney, he was not part of the drafting of the transfer of assets. And I believe that is that historical knowledge that has been lost in this conversation. And so you have new parties that are having conversations and having to relive the historical documents to make sure. And so I believe that once your city attorney sees the documents, that he might understand the conversation is with Soltrans and not with STA.
And no
So-
resolution is, and no resolution
I
is. So
don't
scratch
think-
everything I just said, then you all can just, the Benicia council can pull it from consent and handle it in the moment. They don't
So
do
I
anything
would,
else.
I would ask for, if the board direction is for me to contact the city attorney, I would just ask for that.
Let's add that too. So we're authorizing the executive director and staff to just make contact with City of Benicia and start those negotiations, including legal and everything. All right, that's the motion.
All right, is there a
I second it.
We have a second. All right, call the roll, please.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Young.
Yes.
Director Gordon.
Aye.
Chair Scott.
Yes.
Vice Chair Source.
Yes.
Director Mashburn.
Director Mashburn is no longer in the meeting.
We will note him as absent, and the motion passes with those present.
Yes. Thank you. Wow. All right. Two nights in a row. Two nights in a row of this. Okay. Moving on to item 9A, the comprehensive operational analysis update.
So, if I may, this was put on as a placeholder to discuss maybe what happened last night, and I'm not sure that's necessary to have that conversation. We're moving forward with the COA and the implementation process.
And I think the unexpected news from last night was that the SDA board approved the
Yes.
COA.
Yes.
It wasn't really on the agenda, but it got through anyway, and I think in the end, that was more than we could have hoped for, given the
Yes.
controversy that's gone around that issue.
Greatly appreciated.
And I'll add that it was approved unanimously, and that I think we are entering a better era for countywide collaboration, and I want to thank profusely the Soltrans staff for doing everything that was asked of you throughout that entire process.
Do we need public comment? Anyone wishing to make public comment on this? Nope. All right. There's no action required because this is an informational item. We've scratched 9B, the system performance report, And we're moving on to item number 10, which is a non-discussion item on the state legislative report, which was included in the agenda packet. Do any board members wish to pull this item for discussion? No one? All right. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? Nope. All right. Board of Directors comments. Do we have anyone wishing to make comment? Please.
Well, we got it out on the last item. We made some progress.
When you say comment, are you saying regarding that or just in general?
This is general comments.
Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to bring up that at our city council meeting, we talked about the warming center opening up, and I just want to say thank you for your partnership with that, making sure that individuals can get to the warming center. So I want to take that opportunity to say thank you for that. And then, in not only dropping them off at the warming center, but willing to pick them up and let them be able to go where they need to go, including with their pet. So that was really great. And then also, too, this coming weekend, as we all know, it is Dr. Martin Luther King Day, and we would definitely like to have you as Trans Death to be part of that celebration. It's a 4-day celebration, and if it's too late to plan anything, can we make sure that we have you at the table for next year? Because one of the things that I heard was I would like to go because it's not at one location, it's one here, it's something here and something there, that we can maybe provide some opportunity for folks to get there for free or at no charge or low cost charge. Just something to think in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'd just like to thank the Soltrans team also for the commitment, for speaking up last night and speaking loud and clear and direct and making our comments well received, which they were. And I thank the members of the team that are on the STA board for having the open mind to listen to all aspects of it and to see how Soltrans and STA can work together when we recognize that it's in our best interest to work together in a quick fashion. So we now will recess into closed session.
And can I make a motion that we continue the closed session item to our next meeting? Does the board have a,
I don't have
preference for that? Due to,
Okay.
many
Good.
considerations.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Therefore, with that, we will adjourn.